Welcome, Mark, to Resilient Hustler. Thanks for coming to talk to me. Just for our viewers and listeners, would you mind just giving us an overview and introduction to yourself?
Yeah, for sure. So, Mark Endacott, I'm the managing partner of Endacott Associates, LLP, which is a business management consultancy firm doing project management consultancy and one-to-one business mentoring. I'm also the managing director of an e-commerce business called Copley Trading Company, and I am the founder of a sales training company called The Natural Salesperson. Quite a busy guy.
Busy guy. Yeah. Okay. So where did this all start?
Well, I think I've kind of always been a bit of a serial entrepreneur. So even while I was still employed, I always was trying different businesses. Yeah, I think the weirdest experience was I was trying to start up a CCTV installation company on farms. So I drive around to farms and try and install CCTV cameras. And I pulled into one farmyard. Before I even got out of the car, I heard a tap on the window, turned around. There was a farmer there with a shotgun tapping on the window going, "What do you want?" I put the window down and went, "Well, I was going to see if you wanted security cameras, but I don't think you need them." And very quickly left and went home. But yeah, so, kind of my entire life, I've always had a passion for starting businesses and wanting to get going in various businesses. And then 2016, started my first e-commerce business. That went well. Sold that one on. Went back into employment for a couple of years while I worked out what the next move was, and then started Endacott Associates in 2020. And from that built and grew, and then rolled into starting the e-commerce business, got the trading company, and the sales training one only started last year. So it's kind of just an amalgamation of things have rolled into each other, really.
So you've got three businesses, right? So mentoring, e-commerce, and now sales.
Yeah. So my whole career was sales. I've always been in sales. I've always loved selling. For me, it's not selling, it's helping people. And if you look at it that way, it's a lot easier to kind of explain how to do it well. So yeah, my whole business career, I went from starting in JJB Sports at £3.96 an hour selling trainers, worked through various companies up to being a national sales manager for a wholesale plastics company in the construction industry.
Okay.
And then, yeah, it was always sales for me. So the business consultancy side of things was helping businesses predominantly with business development, and that then kind of amalgamated into a lot of one-to-one mentoring, which is, I'm a qualified mentor and a member of the Association of Business Mentors, which is, I think, you need to have some kind of credentials and backup to be able to justify doing that kind of role. And yeah, the sales training originally was part of Endacott Associates. And I realized that actually I wanted to separate the two, because if you're looking for a business consultancy firm or a business mentor, you're not looking for a sales trainer. So it was easier for me to split the two out. So the sales training company is now called The Natural Salesperson. Launched that last year, and that is all that company does. Got an online sales training course in the works that will be coming out shortly. And yeah, that's predominantly what that business does. Yeah, and the new e-commerce business, well, I say new, a few years old now, is in the tile leveling game. So it's a plastic system designed for putting floor and wall tiles level. And various other DIY building plastic products. But yeah, very much a niche. Very much a niche, yeah.
So how do you balance your time between three businesses then?
Yeah, three businesses and a 1-year-old. A lot of 2 a.m.s. Right. Yeah, a lot of my time is spent after my wife's gone to bed, playing catch up on things and getting on top of things. Anything that isn't like client facing gets done in the late hours of the day or the early hours of the morning. And everything else is client facing work. So it's just, you fit it in the calendar as and when you can and when they can. So it's difficult balance, but I think if you enjoy what you do, it doesn't feel that difficult. You don't feel like you're sacrificing too much. having a little bit less sleep because you're enjoying what you're doing before you go to sleep.
Yeah. So did you expect this kind of level of being busy and having to balance it with your home life?
No. So, I mean, I left employment because the consultancy firm and the online retail business had kind of taken off. So I left employment at the start of 2022. And yeah, it was the end of that year had my child. So it was a bit of a, okay, that wasn't really well planned. But no, it was, yeah, it's great, to be honest. I mean, like I said, I think the balance is always difficult, and there are certain days where certain elements of the business suffer. But that's where it's about getting good support network and having people around you that you can help, or that you can ask for help, that you can rely on, lean on.
Yeah. So you have a support network to get you through. And
so I've got people that I can talk through various issues with. I mean, my wife's fantastic for one. The fact that I can, just lean on my wife to be there and be consistent is great. But yeah, no, from like a business standpoint, I have various people in my life. So I very much am, you practice what you preach. I have a business mentor for my consultancy and mentoring, and a different business mentor for my e-commerce. People who specialize in both of those arenas. So I rely on them pretty heavily. But yeah, also just the network of people that I've got to know through groups like how I got to meet you, through the Northern Affinity and things like that. There are just people in my life that I can drop a line to, ask for some advice on. I think the day we met, you gave me some advice on the natural salesperson logo, for which I probably still owe you some money. But yeah, so it's just things like that. Having just various people around that you can just bounce ideas off and things like that makes a huge difference, I would say.
So going back to setting up the first business or any of the businesses, what did you do to get started? What was it? Was there just a passion? You thought, stuff it, quit everything, and then just go company house, register, and then that's it? Or what was it you...
So this is something that I would say is very important. Unless you are financially secure, don't quit anything.
Yeah.
Don't quit anything until your business can sustain you. So I didn't quit anything. I had work. I had full-time work alongside a consultancy firm and a startup e-commerce business. I left when that e-commerce business had done £160,000 in a year. Right. So I waited until that point. Then I left, and then the following year it grew by £90,000. It was great, justified me leaving. But it was very much, the focus was on growing those things quietly in the background to be able to sustain me before I left. Yeah. It's interesting. I would say the most important thing if you were starting a business is make sure it's in something that you do care about and you enjoy. So I'll be brazenly honest here. I don't have a massive love for tile leveling systems. That was more of an opportunity. Yeah. That was there, and I took it. And that, pays my mortgage. Yeah. But it was never a massive... I like DIY. I'm a DIYer. I bought a project house that I've done the majority of the work myself. I am into DIY, and I like tools and gadgets and products that make my life easier when doing it. But it was never the aim in life to have an e-commerce business that was a DIY building plastics company. It was always, the consultancy firm is more what I love to do. Mentoring particularly. So consultancy is, you tell people what to do. That scratches a certain itch. I quite like that. Yeah. But the mentoring is more getting alongside people and working with them on what they can do to improve themselves personally, professionally, their business. And that's certainly where my passion lies, just in helping people improve their situation.
And I think in consultancy, especially consultancy, and definitely mentoring as well, you have to build up the trust. They have to trust you. And there's so many consultants out there, and so many people go off on their own because they're really good at a certain background, and they're really switched on and knowledgeable about their sector, their passion and their skills. So they're really passionate, really knowledgeable, but so are 100 other people out there trying to sell exactly the same consultancy. So what do you do that makes you stand out, especially when you were first starting off? How did you get your foothold into that industry?
Yes, I mean, a lot of it's connection. So I spent a lot of time working with my connections. The reason I started the consultancy firm was a client they asked me to do some consultancy work for them, on a scale that was big enough to warrant a company. So that's when I started the consultancy firm. Again, it was a side hustle, a background. I hate that phrase, side hustle, but it was. It was, it wasn't what I was focusing all my time on. It was what I did evenings and weekends and days off. But it was very much, again, on that vein of don't quit until you can afford to quit. It started alongside that. I was very lucky that I started because, I was looking for a reason to start that consultancy firm, and a client came along and wanted me to do some work because they trusted in me being the only person who could do it for them. They knew that I had the industry knowledge and the expertise in that area to deliver for them, and they knew me as a relevant figure in that industry at that point in time. And that's kind of where it's all been built upon, is once you land that first client, it's a lot easier because you know that people will pay you to do something. But it's just about building connections and becoming known for something. So, if you think about where you want to aim your business, who you want to target your business at, they need to get to know you as this person, but whatever you want to be, they need to know you as that.
So, you said you didn't quit your job full time and you were running 2 businesses and stuff. That already, for a lot of people, would think that's a hell of a lot of work in your own time that you have to sacrifice. Do you think that's essential for every new startup to be aware and conscious and to be willing to make that level of sacrifice?
Let's be clear, 85% of startups fail within the first 2 years. That's a factual statement. There's a reason for that. People expect to be able to start a business, take a wage, and survive. Just make it work. I didn't take money out of any of my businesses for the first 2 years. I didn't start taking money until I quit my job, and then it was obviously I had to. But by that point, the business was sustainable, had a nice bank balance. It could afford to pay me even if we had a bad month. Even if we had a bad year, it could still afford to pay me. That was the point. So I think, there's a lot of work. There has to be. And it's a lot of work for very little reward at the start, because you can't afford to take the money and cripple the business. The priority when you start a business has to be cash flow, has to be, positive direction for that business. It's got to be about growth. And the way you do that is you make personal sacrifices for the benefit of the business.
And do you think the new startup businesses that don't necessarily make it, do you think the majority of them are lack of personal sacrifice or bad planning at the beginning? What do you think is the...
there's a lot to be said for why businesses fail. There's a whole plethora of reasons. Did they do their research before they started? Did they price themselves appropriately? Did they overestimate the amount of work they would get? Did they underestimate the amount of hours it would take them to do the work? There's no end of reasons why people fail, but generally I think people who are actually starting a business, and particularly those who quit their job to do it, they tend to know that they have to work. People who quit because they want a better work-life balance, they need to understand that isn't certainly the first 5 years of a business. I now have a better work-life, let's call it blend. Tina Bowden. For those of you who don't know Tina Bowden, look her up. Tina Bowden work-life blend. But I have a better work-life blend now, but I am 4 years in. And my work-life blend has to be that because I've got a 1-year-old at home as well. So before I had a child, my work-life blend was work. There was no lies.
Yeah.
It was work.
Yeah.
And it had to be, because it was all about growth. It was all about everything got sacrificed for the sake of growing that business, or those businesses in my case, that allowed me to quit my job. And then, the sacrifices that you make at the start are what allow you to make better life decisions in the future.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you do have to be committed to it, and I guess you've got to be agile enough to move with the changes with your business and with your personal life. Like you having a child and businesses to run, you've had to adapt that, and I think that's quite a crucial thing for people to understand and put the work in up front at the very beginning about the research side of things. It's important. What help did you get at the beginning to start?
Yeah, a lot of help. So I, again, relied on people who knew more than me. There are always people that know more than you. I mentor people. If they have a topic that I'm not an expert in, I signpost them. I signpost them to somebody who knows more than I do.
Yeah.
If I'm not the right mentor for them, I might do 3-4 sessions, and then we find out that whilst I've been great for the first 3 or 4 sessions, what they need going forwards is something different. That's fine. I can recommend them somebody who will be better for them in that environment. Things like, I'm one of those people who I learned the hard way to try and do everything myself. So, I learned how to do poor web design, how to do, as you know, poor graphic design, how to do, various things. I learned how to do things on a shoestring budget just to get them launched. But was that the right thing to do? I didn't have the budget to really go for it. So yeah, potentially it was the right thing to do for me at the time. I was doing up a project.
Yeah.
But I think if you can afford to, it pays back tenfold, getting professional help with certain elements, paying somebody who's better at doing a website than you are, paying somebody who's better at graphic design than you are and branding than you are. And I think it's kind of, people underestimate the value that those things have. When I launched my consultancy firm, my branding was, Wix's logo creator.
Yeah.
Because I'd already paid £310 for a 3-year Wix subscription. Well, by heck, I wasn't going to spend any more money.
Yeah, exactly.
So I did the website myself, and I used their logo thing, and it was a very stuffy corporate logo. I had like a little honeycomb thing, and I was, don't get me wrong, I did my current logo myself as well, but that was more like, I learned a lot before I rebranded. So I did 3 years and then rebranded. And, what I learned was from various people that I'd met in my life and people that had come into my life who were able to give me pointers and tips and direction things. But, if I was starting a business today and I had, so say I'd saved up the money to start a business and I had £5,000 in the bank to start a business. Now, unless you are selling a physical product where you need that money to get it made and place orders, things like that with suppliers, I'm paying somebody who is an expert in brand. Once I've done that, I'm paying somebody who's an expert in web design.
Yeah.
And I'm paying somebody to help me get my foot in the door. So I'm paying for a little bit of marketing advice. I'm not necessarily paying for SEO work. I'm paying for advice.
Yeah.
I'm paying a mentor to come and help me.
Yeah.
Because those are the people that you can trust to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And, if they already have a business doing that, well, they've been in your shoes, so they should be able to guide you.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people kind of wing it early doors, which, it's fine. You hustle a bit and you're trying to get things going. Like you say, you don't have a budget. But as soon as you can get the right people to give you the advice you need, it's so important. It's really helpful. And I think when you start to talk to these people who, I'm not a social media expert by no means. I do my own little posts and stuff. But when you start to speak to someone who knows social ads inside out because that's their job, man, the things they can talk you through and how to get socials in front of the right people and they just know where to go around and how to navigate the whole platforms. And like a lot of people, like just starting off, will have no clue at all. And so it's really important to get that kind of guidance and advice because it can save you a little bit of money up front, can save you so much more and get you so much more from steering things in the right way and doing things properly as early as you can. But again, absolutely realistic. It's budget.
But it's not just that as well. It's, learn how to sell.
Yeah.
The number of people who start a business because they're good at something, they've done it for a company for a while. I'm going to not pick on, I'm going to use marketers as a prime example. Somebody's worked for a marketing company. They go, I can do this. I'll start a marketing company. Have they ever had to sell the product?
Yeah.
If they've been on the, the more graphic end or on the web design and like that kind of thing, that's what they've done. They've never been the front house account manager. They've never had to, actually sell the proposition. They've only ever had to work with the client on what they need. Learning how to sell is fundamental. If you can't actually sell what you do, who's going to buy it? So that's the other thing that for me, I was lucky. I spent my whole career in sales. I was never going to struggle with being able to sell what I do, but it was more, learning how to sell specifically what I was doing now. And again, expert help isn't just can somebody do a website for you. It's can somebody teach you how to do elements of your business that are fundamental. I did a module of an accounting qualification when I first started a consultancy firm because I needed to understand finances better. If I was going to be able to work with businesses, I needed to understand them better.
Yeah.
So things like that, just go and do an AAT. And what's in basics.
Yeah.
Do you understand what, your assets, your liabilities, your expenditure and your income, what they actually mean? Do you understand that credit and debit are flipped when you're on the business side from the retail side?
Yeah.
It's all these little things that you can pick up that make life easier. So I can now do my own bookkeeping.
Yeah.
It saves me money in accountancy fees. Doesn't save me time.
No.
It saves me money in accountancy fees, which when I was starting up again was so important.
Yeah, exactly. And then I guess when you're going in and you're having a consultation with somebody and they're starting to talk about their finances, you have an idea of what they're talking about. It might not be to the far end of like what a finance director will be talking about, but you'll have an understanding of some of the terminology and stuff as well. So what kind of fundamental error do you see people making in their sales techniques when they're trying to sell themselves and sell their business? What's the fundamental thing that you can see, or is the one thing you can see that really stands out?
There are two things.
All right.
The first one is they never actually ask for an order. They never say, so when shall we start? They never say, how many would you like to buy?
Yeah.
But this is common in salespeople as well. So much of my time is spent training sales teams where I go out with somebody for a day. Their job is to sell product. You go out with them for a full day, and not once in that day do they say, so how many can I put you down?
Yeah.
And they're thinking, hang on, this is what you do for work. So actually, understanding that the customer isn't going to come to you and go, okay, well, how many can I have?
Yeah.
Even if you're selling a service, selling your new web platform.
Yeah.
If you pitched it to somebody and then at the end of the pitch, they're thinking, okay, great. And you don't go, so would you like to start working with Switch?
Yeah.
If you don't ask that question, they probably just going to get up and walk out.
Yeah.
You have to ask that question. And the other one is learn to use silence.
Yeah.
How often do I experience bad salespeople who just pitch at me and I sit there thinking that I'm there going, okay. And I'm weighing it up in my head. I'm contemplating options, maybe thinking about the financial implications. And then they say something else, which then changes what I'm contemplating. And I'm having to think some more. And I haven't said anything back. And then they say something else. And then they say something which then puts me off. The third thing they say is the thing that makes me go, oh, actually, no, I'm not interested.
I always think that that's the anxious salesperson because they're so scared that what you're thinking is a way of saying no. And instead of just letting it sink in and you think and work through it, they're panicking. So they quickly jump in with yet another benefit or something. And actually what it ends up doing is you're like, okay, now you're pressurizing me and that's not what I want. So I'm going to walk away. I used to manage sales teams and manage sales teams for a tour operator. And when I was doing the cold coaching and stuff with them, and a lot of them, I would say why didn't you ask for the book? And you can just tell the way they were like humming and ahhing, you can just tell they weren't going to book, but you didn't ask. Just ask. You don't know until you ask. Just ask. There's no harm. All they're going to say is, okay, or let me think about it, or no. Just
either way, you know what you're doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's very frustrating. But yeah, those are the two things for me. People talk themselves out of a sale by not stopping talking and giving the other person a chance to think, and never actually asking for the order. Those are the two fundamental flaws that probably 80% of sales get lost on.
So if a person was in this room now about to start their business, what two tips, first of all, what tip from a sales side would you give them? And what tip from a business owner would you give them?
Okay. From the, I'll go business owner first. From the business owner, get a mentor. Fundamental. Get a mentor, but get a mentor who is in that field that you want to work in.
Okay.
If it's physical product e-commerce, get somebody who's done it before to mentor you. They'll know some of the pitfalls you're likely to end up in. You'll be able to bounce ideas off them. You'll be able to work with them, and they'll know where you're coming from. In your industry, you'd probably be a great person to have as a mentor. If somebody was looking for, I wanted to start up a creative company doing some kind of graphic design, obviously preferably not in your target region.
Competition size. Competition's healthy.
Somebody in South Wales, starting up, could come to you and go, look, you've done this, so I need help. If I pay you, would you mentor me? So find yourself a mentor. That's what I would say from a business perspective. Number one tip, get yourself somebody who's been there, done it, and can guide you.
Yeah.
From a sales perspective, understand the market, where you sit in it, and therefore what you're selling your product or service on. Because your product and service might have a million features. They're only going to want to hear 3.
Where does somebody go, though, to get that research? Because I think some people have an idea of a service or a product that they want to sell. And then they kind of have an idea of who they want to sell it to. And they see it on Instagram, and they see it on the socials and stuff. But where do they go to actually understand where their product or service fits and is it wanted?
I guess that's kind of down to the industry.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's use fashion industry. You want to start a fashion label selling women's clothing, and you want to do it predominantly through social media.
Yeah.
Let's use as an example. Okay, who are your competitors? What do they do? What are they selling? What's popular? Are you knowledgeable enough in that industry? You must be if you want to go into it. Are you knowledgeable enough in that industry to keep up with trends and to know what trends should be coming and things like that? But once you've kind of figured out what your competitors are doing and how they sell and who they sell to and all that kind of thing, then work out what you can do either better or different.
The USP.
Your USP. Because there's absolutely no benefit to you going, so this company's got 10 million followers on Instagram. I think I can do what they do.
Yeah.
And you do the exact same as what they do at the exact same price point they do.
Yeah.
You buy from the same wholesaler they do. Well, they've got 10 million followers. Good luck to you.
Yeah.
Shake your hand and say, I'm out. Whereas, you going, okay, this company's got 10 million followers and they clearly know what they're doing, but I think there are ways it could be done better.
Yeah.
They're missing this gap in the market. They're not targeting this age demographic, whatever it be. Find your niche.
Yeah.
And sell into that.
Yeah.
And that's for product or service. Find your niche. It's the kind of the done thing at the minute. I go, niche down. But I actually think it's quite important that you know who your target is.
Yeah.
Because yes, you can widen it as you learn how to sell to that target. Then you can widen it a bit.
You're just cutting yourself off, are you? You're not isolating yourself. Your focus is on this bit. And these people will be attractive and these people will be attracted still. But you're not saying no to them, but you're just being very focused and very clear on your communication and who you're going for. And so whenever you're putting yourself out there, you're your tone of voice or your marketing ads, your imagery is all geared to that one thing. And that's, you know, that's the importance of, I guess, a really focused value proposition and really go for it. And I think sometimes people are scared to focus in on something because they know themselves that they're really skilled in all these other areas, and that's great. You might be, and you can still sell those on the peripherals kind of thing, but you need to know what's going to sell and to channel it.
And that focus can change.
Yeah.
You know, as the business evolves and changes, that can change. But you've got to think, if you are 6 months into a business and you've sold a few bits here, a few bits there of product or service, and you're going, right, I've got £250 here I can spend on paid advertising.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't really know who my target is, so I'm just going to general focus, men and women 30 to 60 in England.
Yeah.
But say goodbye to 250 quid.
Yeah. Sorry, 2 days.
Yeah, you're not seeing that again. You might get 10,000 impressions within the next 2 days, but you're never seeing your money.
Yeah, absolutely.
Find your focus, and your focus can be an age range, it can be a demographic, it can be a locality, it can be anything, but find your focus, find your niche to start with.
Yeah.
And you can always expand and you can always shift focus. Once you hit your brief and nail that market, you might find that, okay, we're good at that. Now we can expand and focus on this market. Well, there might be an opportunity that props up that you can go and work on. But that being said, don't be a magpie.
Yeah.
Don't just be drawn to shiny things and forget what you're good at and what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that focus, it's really hard for you to differentiate yourself.
Yeah. And I think you've got to always keep analyzing and looking at your results and adapting because your initial kind of sales pitch goes so far, and then you need to understand what failed, what was successful, focus on what's successful, do more of that, go back to that, revisit that, and you really start to funnel and really fine tune your marketing campaigns, and then it really starts to hit home with the people who are going to buy from you.
Yeah, you've just got to look at a company like Gymshark, probably, for example. How did Ben Francis start? He started making T-shirts and vests for bodybuilders. He was very focused. He wanted to work predominantly with men who were wanting to go to the gym and have a better fit of clothes.
Yeah.
That was it. That's how he started. And then it grew, and then it grew, and then it expanded into women's. They're not doing shoes. Well, they're not doing shoes. Well, that might be down the line for them, but that isn't where their focus is right now.
And the market is saturated with shoes as well. So you've got Nike, you've got
Adidas, you've got
Adidas, yeah,
Balance, Skechers, all these big players. And that he can just sit there going, okay, we're really good at this. Something shiny appears over here. He goes, that's great. We'll get to that.
Yeah.
We're really good at this.
Yeah.
Let's grow this. And look at what it's done for them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, thanks for coming in, Mark. It's been really good to talk to you. Really interesting.
I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
Hope to speak to you again.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing what everybody else has to say. This is a great idea. Great podcast.